work, what we can do about it. So I am happy to be here with you. If you're a first time listener or viewer, depending on where you watch, you can see this um, audio and video on Facebook and Instagram and YouTube, and you can pick up the audio at any time to take wherever you are. I'm happy that you are with us. And the way this works, if this is your first time, is it is a call-in program, and that means that you can be a part of the show, and you're really more than a part, because what you do is you give us the fodder, kind of the grist for the mill. Our callers. I got to tell you, we just have the best callers in the world. These are people that are growing and they're into it and they're working it, and we have so many examples. Like just yesterday, I think it was Jolene was her name. She had called in before an issue with her husband, that long-standing patterns that he wouldn't face or change because he was hurting and he was afraid, and all of that. And she changed her stance based on what we talk about here, and she changed her stance, which changed his stance, and now he is on the path. So that's what we do. We talk about how we can take individual ownership and individual responsibility of what we can control. And many times, even though you can't control situations or outcomes or circumstances or people, how many of you have people on the other end? People who have people are sometimes not so lucky as people in the world, right? Because sometimes our dysfunction has a name to it. It's on the other, some of the dysfunctional patterns we're in, it's in a relationship. But as we take ownership and change, it only takes one person to change a relationship. The relationship changes when one person changes. Now, that doesn't mean you can change the other person, but certainly the relationship has changed, because how you're relating to them is different. And many times, and here is what everyone needs to learn about life: we can't control another person. We have massive influence with other people, massive influence, depending on many, many factors that load into, if you do a regression analysis, counting the variance, how much each factor weighs on the outcome. It changes from context to context, but in most situations, there's influence that can be grasped if we know what to do. So that's why our growth is always so important, because we can become a change agent in people's lives, individual relationships, people we love, teams, families, organizations, cities, communities, even countries in the world, when we begin to get better. So that's what we do. Here's a number: 844-940-2774, 844-940-2774 to get on the program, and let's chat about this. Quick announcement from a word from our sponsor. We don't have ads on this program, obviously. You've seen we don't take commercial breaks, right? But we do have an announcement. It's the closest to a commercial we ever get. We do webinars here, 2-hour webinars on various topics, where we go much deeper than we can obviously go on a little broadcast. And we've had so many fun ones and so many people participating and growing and posting and all of that. And the next one is coming up, and it is on September 28th, and it's called The Art of Confrontation: Delivering the Truth with Grace and or delivering the truth, delivering the truth with love and grace, delivering the truth. Anyway, you know what it means? Here's what it means. We have to confront stuff in life, and our success is equal to our ability to confront, because when we hit an obstacle and a conflict in a relationship, if we don't address it, then that's pretty much the way things are going to stay. That's why we say our success is equal to our ability to confront. We can't resolve problems and go around them or avoid them, and then they just remain, and we've hit the ceiling on how far that relationship can go, or that project, or anything else. So Most people, when you say the word confront, they get this view of it like it's this aggressive confrontation. We got to, somebody's going to be held accountable for this. That's what the senators look like when they pound the desk on C-SPAN. Somebody's going to be held accountable for, and they make them sound so like they're really doing something, right? Sometimes they're not. They're just showcasing. That's not what confront means. Confront, literally, the word means to face something frontally, to look at it, to face into it, and to deal with it. That shouldn't be a war. It shouldn't be ugly. It shouldn't be aggressive. It shouldn't be angry. Sometimes it has to be firm, steadfast, immovable. So when we are equipped, and this is what that webinar is going to be about, it's going to equip you to the science and the art and the faith principles that the designer of how all relationships work. God has told us some incredible principles of how to confront, who not to confront, when to run away, when to hide, when to have limits, when to have consequences. Who do you have consequences with? How do you load the different messages? All of that's in what he tells us. And here's the interesting thing. There is a ton of research from neuroscience, psychology, communication, marriage, relationships, recovery, every single column of this whole world of stuff we delve into here, that the science proves what the faith principles say of how and when and whom you confront and how to do it. And basically the way to do it that lends itself to the greatest outcomes, and the ways to never do it because it's not going to help. It might even make things worse. So that's why we call it the Art of Confrontation. And to sign up, you go to this website. Ready? Boundaries.me, boundaries.me/confront. You can get signed up. If you can't be there live on September 28th, that's fine. You sign up for the live event. You can stream it afterwards. And everybody that signs up will be able to stream it over and over and over again and make it fodder for your small group or your own growth. We give you materials to use as kind of an ongoing guide as part of that. And come join us. It's going to be fun. September 28th. Go now. Sign up now. Boundaries.me/confront. And while you're there, check out the boundaries.me website. So much to do and learn and engage in there on over 90 different topics. Boundaries.me. All righty. So we always do, if you're new to the program, we always do a topic for the day. Or a thought of the day. It generally comes from work that I've done, that I run into and working with clients, or something I'm researching or reading in those really, really boring technical journals that I hope you never run into, but that I have to read, or other places. And today's thought for the day is this question that I get so often on, whether it's workshops or call-in programs or somebody calling for help or coaching or whatever it is. Here's the question. Here's usually the way it bubbles up. How can I develop more self-confidence? How can I develop more self-confidence? Now, let me start with in one sense, I don't hear any of this binary all or nothing ways. I'm going to be talking about in the next few minutes. I'm going to be talking about a kind of a packaged developmental formula of that is a legitimate question. How can I develop self-confidence? Of how that happens. But there's something wrong with the question inherently in a certain way. You don't develop self-confidence in a certain way. Self-confidence is a result, not a cause. Self-confidence is a fruit. You develop the tree, and then it sprouts the fruit. What people want is they want to develop a feeling of self-confidence. And then they go proceed and perform well. Well, that's a problem for a number of reasons. And I want to delve into here for a second about the factors that go into this. But basically, let's start with what doesn't work by and large. What doesn't work is just getting into some mental trick called self-confidence where, and I believe in, affirmations, for example. One of the things that we do in our family, every time somebody has a birthday, we have, we have the birthday dinner. We always do this, or on Mother's Day or Father's Day. Somebody ought to have a Children's Day. How about that? Hallmark. You could probably sell some cards if you did that. But on Mother's Day or Father's Day, what we do is we do affirmations. And that's where we go around the table, and whoever it is, whoever in our family, we talk about what we most appreciate about them and what affects us the most in good ways of their qualities or the way they show up or their gifts or abilities. It's a beautiful, beautiful time. And we all need that. We all need the little affirmations and declarations that we make. You are his workmanship. One of my favorite verses. You are his workmanship created in Christ Jesus for good works that have been laid down beforehand so that you should walk in them. What a great affirmation that is to give you confidence, right? You're not a piece of junk. And what I love about that one, and this is why I pray that one specifically in my life a lot, for God to make me his workmanship for those good works. In other words, what that does is it ties purpose and future and what we do in life and what we do every day, we're lining up with how we're made. And see, when you get that, finding success in life and finding fruitfulness in life, it really, really changes when you understand that's not something that's necessarily elusive or impossible only for some people and not for others. See, some people think that success or having a good relationship or being, getting your finances figured out or, learning to be happy or all this kind of stuff, they kind of feel like that's some like, gosh, I don't know if I'm good enough for that. I don't know if I'm made the right way for that. And one of the things that's very, very, very powerful is when you realize and really get it through your head, you are God's workmanship, his piece of art, his creation that he made to be fruitful, to be successful in certain pathways that match you that he has laid down beforehand. Okay, now think about this. Apple has never made a computer that they didn't design and make to be able to work. God didn't make a human that he designed to not be able to work. Now, sometimes Apple will ship a computer and the delivery truck drops it. It gets cracked. Doesn't work as well as it was designed to be. But see, the design is there. And now what we got to do is we got to fix it. That's called growth. But you have to remember the fixing is a distinct possibility and a distinct plan that Apple sent a warranty program to fix it. Jesus showed up and said, I came to do that. So get it out of your head that fruitfulness or ever being confident is outside of the design or the reach for you. It's not. You are made to be fruitful, made to have good relationships, made to have fruitfulness in using your gifts and abilities and talents. You're designed for that. So once you start there, that's a pretty good affirmation to begin the program with. I literally pray that prayer, literally pray that prayer. It's in my prayer list. God, make me, keep molding me and shaping me to be able to be competent, to give me the gifts and knowledge and strengths and skills. As David says, strengthen my hands for the battles you're going to put me in. Give me the skills, the abilities. I pray that God downloads content to me all the time. Have me run across the right article, read the right book, go to the right continuing ed training, all of that. And see, he will do that. That's what he does for us if we're seeking and asking and receiving and awake. So that's a good way to begin this affirmation thing and finding out what your gifts and talents are. But that doesn't give you the feeling totally of being able to feel confident. Okay. So when somebody says, how do I develop more self-confidence? Well, you start with the affirmations and know that you have gifts, you have abilities, you have talents. You're made to like kill it. These gifts and talents are in you. You know who can sing and who can't. You know who can do numbers and who can't. You know who is good at organizing things and who can't. You know who can gather people together and who can't. None of us can do all of that. But everybody can do something because that's your gifts, that's your talents. So those are good affirmations. But that doesn't automatically make us feel confident, the feeling of confidence. So what does? Well, let me ask you a question. This is the simplest way I know how to describe this. This is what I tell people, say, how do you develop self-confidence? You ready? Unless you were injured, understand that. How confident do most of you feel, if you're not otherwise infirmed? How confident do you feel right now if I said, I want you to get up and I want you to walk across the room and I want you to walk back? How confident do you feel? Could you do that without falling down? Could you do that in front of an audience? Could you do that broadcast on a worldwide network? I would bet that 99% of you would say, yeah, I feel like I can do that. Okay, that is confidence. That's confidence. Whoops, let me hit a button there. You feel confident. Do you feel arrogant, like you're better than everybody else? Do you feel wonderful? Do you feel like the king of the universe? No, you're just confident that you can walk across the room. All right. Now, let me ask you this question. Where did that feeling of confidence come from? Well, let's take you back when you didn't feel confident and you were 14 months old and you're teetering and tottering, and mom or dad or grandma or somebody said, okay, let's walk across the room. And you grab their hands and your eyes got this big and you're not confident at all and you fall down. Well, what happened then? Everybody went, yay! And you got back up and you tried it again and you took a few more steps. You got back up, you tried it again. It wasn't very long, but it was a little while. Might have been, I don't know, sometimes, what does it take? I forgot. Days, a few weeks, continues to get better. And then finally, it's not long before you're running across the yard. Now, here's the thing. You're running across the yard. You're not running across the yard thinking after it's done, after you can run, you're not running across the yard when you're going to race whoever it is across the yard. You're not sitting there going, I'm confident, I can do this, I can do it. You're not even thinking about it. That is self-confidence. because it's tied to original sin. Okay, let's talk about a religious word here. Original sin. What is original sin? Well, part of it, go back to the story. Satan comes along and says to the humans, you can be like God, knowing good from evil. In other words, said another way, you can cease to be human and be like God and be the judge. Well, that'll get in the way of your self-confidence. What if every step you take, you're not lost in the experience of running, but you're worrying about how well am I going to run? Am I going to be good or am I going to be bad? The knowledge of good and evil. I'm going to judge and evaluate everything I do. And if I do it well, whoopee, I go to heaven. If I don't, I go to hell. See, the whole problem originally is the judgment. I don't have confidence because I'm judging my inability and criticizing myself when I'm not able. Now, that's not what a toddler does. A toddler is unable, but doesn't judge themselves. They learn and they practice. And then the whole damn question, am I good or bad, just goes away, just like it does when you walk to the refrigerator. You're not evaluating yourself. Why? Because you practice and you got good at it. And now it's even relegated to the lower parts of your brain where you can do other things while you're walking. You're so confident. So where does it come from? Well, number one, it comes from the absence of judgment while you are learning whatever it is you're trying to be confident about. Getting the knowledge of good and evil out of the equation. So if we're trying to learn something new, we don't go to the Olympics the first time where they are judging you with divers judges cards. You get in the pool with mommy or daddy or somebody. They say, swim to daddy. You can go under and they go, good try. And they pick you up. And so we're learning how to swim, how to walk, how to throw a ball, how to catch a ball, how to paint a painting. Where does self-confidence come from? Basically, it comes from practice in the absence of judgment, in the absence of criticism. So the toddler falls down, somebody claps, they get back up. This is fun. They take another step. This is fun, even when I fall down. Everybody claps. Woohoo. And pretty soon the skill develops, and then you forget about it. And when you forget about whether or not you're going to be good or bad, what happens? You get lost in the experience. You stop trying to worry about failure. You get lost in the experience. Great athletes, and I can tell you this in sports, my whole life kind of has been spent in competitive golf, and I was really serious about it when I was younger. And all athletes will tell you this. You get sometimes in a zone and you're so lost in the experience. And I remember those moments on those days when you're in the zone and I'd set up over a shot and the flag's out there 180 yards and I can feel it. I can see it. I can feel everything about what's going to happen. And I would hit the shot and I don't even, you're hypnotized. And all I can feel is where the hole is. In those moments when you're just lost in the experience and it's close to perfection. Because you're not asking yourself, can I do this or not? Am I good enough? Am I going to fail? Am I going to hit it in the water? Don't hit it in the water. Don't hit it in the leg. Your brain can't not do something. It can only do something. So how does that come? Well, it comes from practice. So what do you want to feel more self-confident about? Well, go practice without judgment. And when you fail, laugh. Maybe you want to feel more confident in having a confrontation. Okay. Be a toddler. Why don't you, if you can't confront people or be direct or set boundaries, say no, why don't you get a friend and let's, just like kids go shoot hoops in the backyard, hey, let's go practice saying no to each other. And the other one get defensive and gaslight and be toxic and name call and stay in there and say, well, that's not what I said. Here's what I'm saying. And until you hear this, I can't, there's not much I can do until you hear it. And then they name call, and then you repeat yourself. And then you start to get pretty good at this. Practice. That's where self-confidence comes from. And when you're self-confident, guess what? You're not even feeling self-confident. The question goes away. When Tiger hits a shot, he is not wondering whether or not he can hit the shot. He is into the shot. Not fear of not ending it, not fear of failure. And the more that stuff kicks in, that's when people fold under pressure. Tiger doesn't fold under pressure. Nicholas doesn't fold under pressure. Brady doesn't fold under pressure. They're not wondering, I wonder if I can throw this pass or not. Because they've practiced and the question goes away. But you can't practice without the absence of judgment. So find a safe place and grow. And then you're going to get good at it. And then the whole issue is going to disappear. So there we go. Your thoughts on self-confidence. I wish, I don't know if you guys are enjoying this or not. You'll have to tell me. And if I can do better, then tell me. But I can tell you one thing. When I'm talking to you here, and I know gazillions of people are listening, and I might suck. I mean, there are days when it's not as good as other days, right? Sorry. But I can tell you this. I'm really not sitting here wondering, can I do this or not? Can I put some thoughts together? Can I get the words out? Can I communicate well enough to make sense? I'm not really doing that. Now, I might suck, but I'm not worried about it. All right. And if I do, you'll tell me and I'll try to get better. I promise you. I take your feedback very, very, what's the word? Deeply. But I wish I had the tape. And it was a tape back then when I started. It would have been a cassette to the first live radio broadcast I ever did. So bad. But not only was it bad, I was like, can I think of wait a minute, I lost my I mean, I was so like self-conscious. Oh, I'm talking on the radio. There's people listening. You could have put all the yellow Post-it notes, "You're awesome," in front of me that you could have. I'd still been scared. You know what, Liz? It only took 80,000 gazillion million episodes of this to get to where I don't care anymore. It's fine. I can do this. So that's the way this stuff works, guys. And you know what? You don't have to be scared. And when I'm telling you, it's going to take practice, whatever you're doing. You don't have to be scared of the failure because you're going to find a place where the failure doesn't matter. I just read a lot of research on how they teach high-level firearm training to military and police who have to be able to, while all sorts of stuff's going on, kind of put a shot within a shot. And the first thing they do is they immerse them in taking many, many shots and tell them they don't care where it goes. They take the pressure off. They take the knowledge of good and evil off. They remove the effects of original sin. We weren't made to judge ourselves, guys. We were made to dance and not worry about what it looks like. So get back there. All righty. 844-940-2774. We're going to go to a few calls here. Here we go. I got a little encouraging word when I said, I don't know if I suck or not. Albie said he's enjoying it. So thanks, Albie. Appreciate that. Nikisha is calling us, watches on YouTube. Nikisha, welcome to the Dr. Cloud Show.
Hello?
Hello.
Hey, can you hear me?
I can hear you. And you know what? I'm telling you, you got the self-confidence right now. You ought to be a radio host and have your own show.
Wow. If only I could put you in my pocket and you can just tell me all the nice things.
I can do that.
Yes. Your words
we'll make
are
a recording.
What you said about self-confidence, that like my mind was blown. That was definitely full of the Holy Spirit.
Well, that's my prayer every day too, because I don't know, I think, that's another part of this. And I wish we could we probably should do a webinar sometime on self-confidence. But, one of the things that we'll get to your question here in a second, but one of the things that helps me, Nikisha, is one of my favorite verses. It says in Philippians 2, I think it is. Maybe it's 4. It says that God, it says, work out your salvation with fear and trembling, for it is God who is at work within you to do his good pleasure. So if we're working and practicing and doing stuff with, with reverence and gosh, I want to do the best I can, but we're also understanding we're accepted wherever we are, then he's actually working through us. And so that's another, whatever you got to do, say, God, empower me to do what I got to go do today.
If only other people saw it that way.
What do you mean?
Yeah. No, it's like my problem isn't with God. It's with like wondering if other people will see things from his perspective,
Oh, a lot of them
that's
won't,
not why I called.
Yeah. But you know what? Here's a newsflash. Okay. And I want you to get this in your head. Most of them won't. Most of them, look at the cancel culture. One mistake, you go to hell.
Yeah.
Right? That's not how God looks at things.
Nope.
He looks at our mistakes as a place where he enters in and tries to make us better, and then he forgives us and he says, try again.
Yeah.
So most of the world is not going to look at you like he does. But here's the trick. We need to find some people that are looking at us like he does. So that's not why
have them not abandon you.
Have you not abandoned? Yeah. Well, that's kind of a big part of it. So tell me how it can help.
Yeah, I've got bullet points because I know we have limited time, but I've got like a history of abandonment issues, and in my early 20s, I got adopted by like a family. I guess it's a ministry group that basically did life together for 10 years. Christmases and everything like that.
And anything in between?
It was the best. Yeah, the two leaders of the group basically raised me. I didn't have really a childhood. So the two leaders were best friends, and they were my spiritual fathers. They raised me. They're the only reason I started being somewhat functional.
Let's just give a shout out to them wherever they are, because that's what everybody needs. And if you don't need it, then you ought to be doing it for somebody. So way to go.
And I started doing it for, I started the youth group and started teaching them a lot of stuff that you teach, and, I learned from my counselor and stuff. But cool. So last November, the leader that I was most closest to, the spiritual father I was closest to, took a job at a large church being the creative director, and basically said, oh, nothing's going to change. Everything's going to be fine. And everything changed and nothing was fine. But he didn't ever admit that. He just to this day is basically kind of still pretending everything's fine, but we don't meet anymore. We used to meet on Mondays, and he basically kind of stopped talking to everyone. I mean, I guess because he's overwhelmed. So,
and how big is this group? When you say everyone in the spiritual family that he was kind of the leader of, how big is this group?
Probably about 10 people, you know, and some people went to the church with him, you know. It's just, for me, he was like the person that I trusted the most when I grew up, not trusting anyone. And I still have the second one, the other spiritual dad, but I'm always nervous he's going to leave, you know. But so I guess my question is, because you know, working on things with my counselor, who's an amazing counselor. His name is Roger Shepard, and he's a fantastic Christian counselor. But
shout
my
out to Roger.
Is, how do
Where
I work?
is Roger? Where is Roger?
He's in Orlando.
If you want to say. Okay, so now everybody in Orlando knows. Now everybody in Orlando knows you need a good counselor. Check out Roger, right?
Yeah, Roger Shepard, Florida Counseling Center. He's amazing. But my question, I guess, is how do I work out abandonment issues with my counselor when I have a root of abandonment, and also recently experienced the deepest abandonment of my life, and other people are actually currently leaving my life too, and it's triggering the abandonment issues to the point where I can't really function. Like, it's very difficult to function. Like, can't get out of bed. I'm on depression medicine. I'm on anxiety medicine. But when it's triggered, like, my roommates just moved, and I was very attached to their 4-year-old. And I'm constantly scared that my dad, Jim, my spiritual adopted dad, Jim, is going to leave my life. And so I have, like, I couldn't get out of bed till noon today, and yesterday I was all zonked out, and I don't know what to do. I want to work on it. My counselor's really good. Are you working? Yeah, I work from home. You know, my schedule's flexible.
Are you getting your work done?
I am, but sometimes I get a little behind, and it makes me work late into the night. Yeah, it's just hard.
You get behind because you're not getting up. Is that right? You get behind because you're not getting.
Yeah, it's hard to focus.
Yeah. Okay.
Unless I'm on some sort of substance.
Tell me what are you doing about this? What's going on in your counseling? What are you doing about it? What's your plan of attack?
Well, I see my counselor once to twice a month. Because that's
any way to increase that?
If I get a roommate again, but right now I'm paying for everything myself. Well, I was supposed to. Yeah, my roommate that was supposed to move in dipped. She just left, so that was another trigger. So,
that's one way. But is there another way? A roommate's one way, but hey, sorry about that. But Finley, if you look in the background there, I don't know if you can see the screen, but my dog Finley just decided that there's something going on outside that she has to inspect. So I apologize for that. Anyway.
Oh, animals are my favorite thing.
Well, here's one right here. I got to get my family down here to come get her. Anyway, so is there another way to? The first thing that I'd like to see potentially is if he can do it, and he thinks it's a good idea because he's the one you ought to ask. But a lot of times, you know, an increase in the frequency and decrease in the lag between therapy sessions is really, really important. So could that be done?
Only if I have an increase in income, or if somebody moves in to help, you know, cut things in half, because right now I'm paying for everything by myself.
Okay, so how much let's talk about that. How much would it take to get you to go every week?
Oh, it's $75 a week. So
okay, so you need to find $150. You need to find $150 a month somewhere.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, so that's one thing. But what questions do I ask?
Hold on a second. I just want to say this so other people can kind of, you know, maybe start to think this way. If what's between me and what I want most is $150 a month, okay, then what are the possibilities of me finding $150 a month?
Yeah.
My daughters make that babysitting when they were in high school. Go do a handful of nights of babysitting, or they. My point is, there's 80,000 ways. If what's really one of the most important things now, and then I'm going to go somewhere else. If you've got a group of 10 people that knows that you're suffering this much, and there's 10 people in there, would they, each one of them, put $15 a month into the circle to help you get the counseling that you want, or one of them put 150 in? I don't know.
They might.
But see,
They
that's not a
definitely
big.
might, especially,
Yeah,
yeah. I do video
that's what
production, so maybe I could help them out with something.
maybe you could. But my point is this:
Yeah.
that that especially in the body of believers, but even non-believing in Jesus, people with great care for one another will help each other out too. I mean, this is a human thing. It's not just a Christian thing, but we are called to do it. So if you go to the book of Acts, for example, what do? Well, they just, this is what they do. They help each other out. So if it's
That's
that
awesome.
bad and you need 2 sessions, I would go to that circle and say, guys, this is time limited. I'm not going to be dependent on you forever. But would anybody give $15 a month? It's
Yeah, and I
kind of
believe they would, especially
okay.
since we pattern ourselves off of the Book of Acts. So
There you go. All right. So I'm just trying to get that thinking
yeah,
into your head. So I'd like for you to talk
no,
to your
for
counselor.
sure.
Is there some way I can see more? So what is your, and we got to go fast here, but what's your next plan of attack? Are you meeting, is the group together still, even though it's lost a couple of people?
Only me and my, the other spiritual dad, Jim. We meet on Mondays, but it's with a different group of people,
Okay.
because
And
everybody else is
that's in
scattered
place
and
every
stuff.
Monday. That's in place every Monday.
Yeah, yeah, it is. Yeah.
Okay. What about, is there a support group through your church? Is there a support group? Does Celebrate Recovery exist? I know it does in Orlando. Have you tried one of those?
Oh. Well, the group that I'm meeting in actually, weirdly enough, turned into a support group because it's all the people
Okay.
dealing with kind of the same stuff.
All right. Okay.
So,
So here's, and I'm gonna give you the just for time's sake, I'd love to talk to you, longer, but I can't. So here's what I would say to you. I would say to you that you've already got something to build from. Okay, you got a
hmm
counselor, you got a good group, you got some people that still care. All right. Now, one of the things I want you to do is I want you to get your language and the way that you're framing this and automatically looking at it. I want you to get it to match reality. And here's what I mean
hmm
by that. When you were communicating about this, there were a lot of all or nothing statements about, when everybody leaves and totally gone and, all of that, that's the abandonment because that was true for you. See, that's true,
yeah.
but it's an old truth where you had no one. Everybody left. There wasn't anybody to depend on. They walked out. Okay. Now you have lost some specific people and not some others. Now, I'm not trying to
hmm
make all this rosy. I'm trying to make it accurate because part of getting out of the past total abandonment framing is getting into what you're specifically grieving. I don't want you to be abandoned. I want you to be grieving. So let's grieve this
Oh, I
leader
see.
who made a life choice and lose him in the context of everybody else that loves me instead of
Mm.
just have this trigger. I don't have anybody in the universe because that'll make you analytically depressed, right?
Yeah, it's a large word. Yeah.
Sorry. Um, Deep attachments. Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
And then I want you to go into your therapy and then process what this is triggering, or ask your therapist if this is a good thing to do. This is reminding me of, and then you're going to process all that trauma
Oh.
and then talk. And once you do that, then you're separating it again, being able to heal something instead of re-experience it all the time. And then also, I want you to talk to your therapist and others, and I'll have to wrap with this. I want you to talk with your therapist and others about the moments where you're feeling abandoned Who can you call at that moment from that place? Because that's the abandoned child who needs somebody to come into their life. And what does a kid do? A kid starts to feel alone, and they, or they run in and find mom or dad or somebody, and they reconnect with them and they get filled up. See, every child suffers abandonment every day, because they haven't internalized what's called emotional object constancy, where they can be alone and mommy is inside of them now. That's how they play in the backyard without feeling abandoned. But until they get there, they feel abandoned. And the way they do that is overcoming abandonment moments by crying or running and asking, and mom or dad or somebody comes and picks them up. Every human's been abandoned since birth because we didn't have any love inside. Gradually, the more we reach out from our need states and internalize that care, they live with us, and then we don't feel abandoned anymore. We feel lonely, like, oh, and then we're able to call someone. So I want you to take the abandoned child into a moment of being picked up.
How do I do that? Like, what does that physically look like?
Physically, it looks like you call your friend Susie and say, sometimes, you know what, I hit bottom. Can I call you and tell you that I'm hitting bottom? And we just talk for a few minutes.
So I can do that with the dad that I have, like Jim. I can call Jim and be like, hey, this is how I'm feeling.
You know, ask Jim, ask your friends, who can I call? Okay. See, that's what sponsors do in recovery. Okay.
And it's okay to do that.
It's not okay. It's commanded. It's commanded
right on.
in the book. Yeah. What did Paul say to the Corinthians? We've opened wide our hearts to you. We've opened wide our hearts to you in our lives. Now, as I speak as to children, he says, open wide your hearts to us as well. Reach out. Paul says, when I was depressed, God who comforts the depressed sent Titus to me. He writes some letters. I hope to see you. I need refreshing. Thank you for refreshing me. It's not just okay. It is the blueprint.
Wow.
So let's do it. Let's do it.
And I can process with my counselor about Scott, because that's what's triggering everything else.
Of course.
The fact that he left.
Of course. Of course. You can process with your friends as well. I read this in one of those books. Look, the other thing I want you to do is I want you to get on a little better structured schedule if you can, where you're getting up at a regular time. And if you have trouble with that, then that's where you call one of your friends and say, hey, call me and wake me up and tell me that, I'm a goofball if I don't get out of bed. And you gotta, because one of the things we know, and get moving, that'll help the depression as well. Okay, got to run. Talk to some other people.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for your call. I think that you have helped a lot of people today by
good start to the day.
Sharing your story. Thank you. Really, really thank you for that. So many of us, if you've been through times like that where everything falls apart, you feel like, or whatever, there's what happens a lot of times when you get into a subjective state like that. There's a global part of the brain that tends to feel like everything's gone, everything's bad, et cetera, et cetera. And it is global. And one of the things we have to do is we have to make it specific. Okay, who is still left? What is my next choice? Who can I call? Who can give me $15? Once we start to get specific and make specific action steps, then what happens is it returns us to a sense of what psychologists call agency and ability and competency to solve this. And sometimes what I find about a lot of times in that state anyway, but sometimes just normal people, and I want everybody to hear this, you have no idea how many options are available to you because you don't have an idea yet, right? I remember one time I was in a management meeting with some folks in the business, and one of the vice presidents said something like, some kind of problem, or they ran out of funding here. I can't remember what it was, but something happened, and she goes, "Well, I guess there's nothing we can do." And I said, "What do you mean there's nothing you can do? Well, what are we going to do? I mean, they're not going to give us any more investment money. The bank's not going to, whatever." I said, "What do you mean? There's a lot of things you can do." She said, "Like what?" I said, "Like you can stand up on the table and paint your hair orange and swing from the lamps. Why don't you try that?" Meaning there are unlimited things that you can do. You could find a partner, you could find an investor, you could do a GoFundMe, there's 80,000 things that you could do. And see, we don't think that way. And just, in talking with Nikisha, there were just a few things readily available to her that in depressed states, we don't think of these things. So we need to get out of that little circle sometimes. Okay. Um, Gosh, I don't know the name of the book. I gotta find this. Let me see if I can find it for you guys. Where is it? I might not be able to do this. Well, where is it? You know what? You're gonna have to go look it up. I just heard the greatest talk. Jamie Kern Lima, if any of you know who she is, she founded IT Cosmetics. It was she founded it, started it, and she wrote about it in her book. And I don't know what the name of the book is, but she started this cosmetics company because she had blemishes that nothing was fixing, and she developed something to fix it, and then she started making them, and she's trying to sell them, and she goes to stores to carry them, and everybody's saying no, and everybody's saying no, and everybody's saying no, and everybody's saying no. And then it comes down to finally she had an opportunity to talk to, somehow got in the door at QVC, the Home Shopping Network, and she's talking to them about it. And then they say no. And the reason they say no is they say, because nobody's going to buy cosmetics from somebody that looks like you. Meaning she didn't have the runway model's body, right? And she got rejected, being told that she had the wrong body type for anybody to buy cosmetics from. She's gone 3 or 4 years trying to get this company working, and they're really struggling and really running out of money, and they're down to their last, kind of few bucks. And then she gets told this, but she said she was in prayer, and she could feel inside, I'm not going to accept that no. This isn't the end. Like God was telling her, keep going. Here's the short version. She sold the company for $1.2 billion in cash. She got her first opportunity. Somebody bought it. Somebody else bought it. She showed that normal women who didn't look like runway models looked beautiful, and everybody has their own beauty. And it turned into this huge thing. But the point being, when one person's telling you no, it feels like, well, there's nothing we can do. Well, she kept finding options, and it's a way of thinking that gets us out of a hole. It's not money showing up somewhere, and she just tried this and tried this and tried this, and would never take the no as the end. It's a beautiful story. So look her up, and look at her book. It's a good one. Let's go back to the phones and talk to Susan from New York. Call us on Facebook with an emotional regulation question. Susan, welcome to the program.
Hi, thank you, Dr. Cloud. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
That's great. I used to follow you years ago, and I got your book and have been struggling in my marriage for a long time. things haven't really changed, but just kind of learning to go with the punches and as years go by,
which book did you were you
boundaries,
referring to?
boundaries.
Okay, so just a curious
boundaries in marriage, yeah.
Okay, curious question. I'm not aware of in boundaries in marriage where it says to go with the punches. So what does that mean, to go with the punches? It's kind of the opposite of what the book said.
Right. Well, in other words, not leave him. So, just
okay.
Yeah, you're right. Not go with the punches. I guess I shouldn't have said it that way, but in other words, so let me just. There's a lot in here, but I'm going to try to condense it. So I'm in a very difficult marriage.
Why don't you put it to
my
husband?
husband.
What is the question?
Okay, so my husband is either happy or depressed. He's either quiet or verbally aggressive. There is very little stability, and
when he is
I think,
quiet, is he happy? He said, when
no.
he's quiet, is he happy?
No. He's either happy or depressed, but then if he's depressed, he gets quiet or verbally abusive. It's kind of like passive aggressive. He's either passive.
Okay, but other times
or
he's happy. Other times he's happy.
Well, very rarely he's happy, but when he's happy, he'll be bubbly.
You said he's either happy or depressed. So what's the percentage of time that he's happy versus depressed?
He's more. I would say 10%.
Well, then he's depressed
versus 90%. Yeah. He's pretty depressed, but it's and it's been affecting. It has always affected our marriage. I mean, it's
okay. So what's been done? What's been done about his depression?
Nothing. He doesn't think he has. I've said, let's get help together. He won't acknowledge it. And that's kind of like where arguments start, and where so we end up in arguments, and I'm trying not to get angry, but he's very verbally abusive. He can curse at me, he can say horrible things to me, and he's a Christian.
Okay, so when he's doing that, why is there someone there listening to that?
Good question. Because I think maybe I can get through to him. So
hold on. Has this happened more than twice?
Oh yeah.
Okay, all right. How many times do you think it's happened?
Throughout our marriage? Oh, a lot.
Give me a number.
A lot.
More than 10?
More than once a month.
Once a month, so a dozen a year. How long have you been married?
About 33 years.
Okay, so
and we
have a lot, right? It's a lot, right?
It's a lot. It's a lot. Yeah.
Okay, so I want to go back to your statement. I said, why are you there listening to this? And you said, because I think I can get through to him. Mm-hmm. Okay, so you have 30. Did you say you've been married 30 years?
33.
So you have 33 years times 12 of trying to get through to him in the way that you're trying it and it not working. So I want to ask you, why do you say, because I think I can get through to him?
I mean, there have been times that I have. What my ultimate desire is for him to recognize that, first of all, that he has highs and lows. There's very little in between, that he's either passive or aggressive.
I understand that. I understand what he needs to acknowledge, right, and what would help him. Okay, he's helpable, right? But your way of trying to influence him to get help is to stand there and be verbally abused, you say, and thinking you can get through with him. And all I'm saying is that's not working.
Right. And I do go. I do leave. I mean, it's not that I stay there.
But
I
what do you
leave.
Well, you leave? You leave with what conditions, though? Look, in other words, what I'm saying is that if your desire is for him to see this. It would sound something like, I love you and I want you to see that, sometimes when you're not feeling well, you start to, whatever you call it, you curse at me and call me names and all this. That makes me move far away from you. And I don't think that's what, I hope that's not what you want. Okay.
Right. But
And
the problem is I get so angry.
Can I finish? Let me finish.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
And the problem is I try to, when we stay in these discussions and I try to talk to you about it, then I get angry and we get into saying that's not helping, and I'm not going to do that anymore. Okay. So here's what I want to know from you. Are you willing to go with me and let's go see a good psychologist who can help us understand a better way to talk to each other, but also I want you to listen to what they say about some help for how it is when you get depressed. Will you go with me to do that? Now, my hunch is you've tried that. So you haven't tried exactly like that, but you probably tried to get him to get help before, right?
Right, but my problem is I get angry too, and I want to try to diffuse the anger, and I'm having difficulty with that because I get angry.
Yeah, so we're again. That's what I was talking about earlier. I said, we have to get in control of ourselves first. Okay, so you can't control how he's responding to you, but as I said earlier, you can influence. Now, getting angry back at an angry person is not going to help. Okay. So
now I don't say the things he does, but yeah.
Well, then I'm confused. You told me the problem is you get angry back.
Right, I get angry back, but I'm not. I don't. I don't go over like what the things he's saying. He can curse. He can get really angry.
Yeah, I said was
anger,
you get angry back at an angry person, right? That doesn't help.
Right,
is what I'm saying. Okay.
Right, doesn't help.
So here's what I would do, and I'm gonna give you one of my favorite verses. It says, "Before we can help somebody else get the speck out of their own eye, we got to get the log out of their eye. We got to get the log out of our own eye first." So before, you're probably going to be able to influence him. And ultimately where I was going to go with that is say, the way we're doing this isn't helping. And so I want to know if you will agree to go get some help with me. And then if he says no, say, well, I don't want to continue in these screaming matches or whatever. And so unless you're talking to me without calling me names or yelling, then I won't be in the conversation. And if you won't go get help with me, then I'll go get some marriage counseling by myself. Not individual counseling per se. I'm going to go talk about our marriage so I can figure out what I need to do here because I continue to be hurt and I don't want to be hurt anymore. And I continue to see you not feeling well. And I don't want you feeling like that anymore. I want something good for both of us. So I hope you come with me. But if you want, then I'll go by myself. Now that's where I was going to go. But here's what I would say to you first. And that is that Susan, if it sounds like he's kind of like, he's able to hook you, right? You get angry. Right? This hurts. Nobody likes to be talked to like that. So,
it hurts. Yeah,
it hurts deeply, and it also hurts to live with somebody that isn't acknowledging an ongoing problem. That's hurtful. Okay, so why don't, before you do any of this, why don't you go find a good counselor to sit down with and say, I need to be able to have good boundaries and limits in a way that has a possibility of a good conversation maybe happening, or at least being in control of myself where he can't hook me as much. And then you aren't getting hooked by him as much. And then you can have the conversation that might lead to something. Okay. But the main thing is you need protection from being hurt so much. And so when I'm asking you to go back into it, I'm not asking you to go back into it while you're vulnerable. I'm actually asking you, if you can, to go into those, when I say into it, back into it, the conversations from a stronger place where you get some help and you're not alone in this.
Right. Yeah, I feel very alone. Yeah.
I know you do, and you feel powerless in it. And I don't want to, it's not like, well, you need to go just stand up. I'm not trying to tell you to go get victimized or anything by this. I'm trying to get you to go talk to somebody where you can find out the best options. But I know the best options are going to be where you are able to take a firm stand, and that may only be in a counselor's presence. We can only talk about this with a marriage counselor. I don't know.
Right.
But I want you to get in a strong place and be able to deliver the message with some firm boundaries. Okay, I've got to go because we are up against the clock, but I hope that's helpful to you. I'm going to gift you a couple of things. I'm going to gift you, we have 2 webinars that apply here, and maybe your husband could watch this with you if he were open. Doesn't sound like he would, but maybe he would. We have a webinar, boundaries.me/marriage. We have a webinar called The Marriage Equation, where it goes through a lot of stuff like this. But also I'm going to give you The Art of Confrontation, which is coming up in September. So give Albie your info on that, and maybe that'll help. So some of you, sometimes when I talk about, and I probably should say this because my hunch is might have some misunderstandings on this. Sometimes when somebody's in a difficult relationship, it's generally speaking, it's not really helpful to allow somebody to be screaming at you and calling you in, especially if that's a long-term pattern. Now, as a psychologist, I can tell you that many, many times it's helpful, for a therapist to sit there, and if somebody's gotten triggered or they have PTSD or whatever, and they're fighting and aggressive, to be able to contain that and sit with it and help transform somebody out of that state. Well, but the psychologist that's doing that is not a victim being victimized by it, right? It's sort of like, sort of like the bouncer in a bar. They move towards a fight to try to, so I'm not talking about somebody being victimized. So there are times when I have sat through horrible, called every name and swung at and all sorts of stuff. I wouldn't advise anybody that's being victimized. You got to protect yourself. Okay. You got to have, if you're vulnerable and it's hurtful and it tears you down and all of that, you got to get away from abuse. Standing, sometimes you have to run, you have to go to a shelter, you have to call a friend, you have to leave, you have to not take it. Okay. But that aside, if somebody is not in, if you are in a relationship where it's not bad enough to where you're not being, decimated, and you're just trying to find a different way to be redemptive in that relationship, you can't be in there, then it is really important to have good boundaries and limits and offer people choices. Like, you can choose to name call and scream and all that. If you do, I won't be listening. Okay. But if we can talk about it in a different way and we can listen to each other, then I'll be glad to talk to you. So, really, when you think about it, that's what you do with toddlers. One of my favorite verses, Proverbs 19:19, says, if you rescue an angry person, or an angry man or person, either one, you're only going to have to do it again tomorrow. So, as she said, for 33 years, you keep trying to rescue them out of that, talk them into, try to get through to them. That's what she said. Sometimes what you need is, you're going to be in timeout, basically, until we're not. Okay, we are out of time. There are some really good, I see some other callers waiting. I'm sorry I couldn't get to you today. Call us back. I'll be here tomorrow. Call me back. Maybe Albie, you can even make a way for that. It's been great to be with you guys. Go get some self-confidence, like we talked about in the beginning of the program. Put the Post-it note up on your mirror, but that's not the main thing. The main thing is in a spirit of grace, in a safe place. Let's go take some steps and learn. And when we build skills, we're pretty confident. I got another total knee replacement I'm looking at. I was with the surgeon. He didn't seem scared. He's not worried about it. Oh, I wonder if I can do this. If he were, I wouldn't be going to him. But when you ask him, only does about 1,000 of these a year. Practice helps build confidence. Okay, guys, love you. Remember, September 28th, go to boundaries.me/confront. September 28th, we're having a 2-hour webinar. Sign up for it. If you can't be there then, you can stream it afterwards. The Art of Confrontation, how to have conversations, not war, but conversations, even with difficult people, that can help stop the pain, whatever they're doing to you, or stop the pattern of enabling their irresponsibility or bad behavior, or sometimes stop somebody from destroying themselves, or stop somebody from not growing. That's what the Art of Confrontation can do. So go to boundaries.me/confront to sign up. Okay. See you guys tomorrow. Bye.